big week here for Tennessee, so no one better to have on the show than Eric Cain. You know him from Volquest and the Locked On Vols podcast. I actually did his podcast this week. Go check it out if you haven't already. Eric, thank you so much for joining the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, man.
And the only problem doing an interview like this, for me anyway, I hate to be like redundant and ask the same questions. I'm sure you've been asked like 50 times on 50 different shows and radio and this, that, and the other. So I'm trying to come up with something a little bit different.
Yeah.
We all know this is Josh Heupel Bowl and all this that it means for him and Oklahoma fans. So let me ask you this way, because I know you cover this program intimately. You speak with these players and everything. How much do you think this game will mean to Tennessee's players that they want to get a win for Josh Heupel? Are you getting any sense of that at all this week?
You know, we asked a couple of those players earlier in the week because, you know, we need to get the quote because we're writing our stories and all that. And they downplay it. They say, hey, Josh Heupel's has not made this week bigger than what it is. He's not making it about himself. It's all about Tennessee. It's all about getting us ready to go and everything. And so they said that there's no extra motivation. And I agree with them in that sense because this is a veteran-led team. They love to come to work. I'm not saying that they're the only team in America that loves to go to practice every day and loves to play. I mean, there's hardworking teams, a lot of places, but there's half the team stays after and does things after practice is over. They get there early. They get in the training room. It's a veteran-led team that just loves the process, right? So they're a hard hat lunch pail type team anyway. So in that respect, like they don't need any extra motivation, right? They don't need any extra motivation. They know how big this game is. They know on the road somewhere Tennessee hasn't played very well in recent years. They know the stakes of this football game, but in the same respect, they love their coach. They read social media. They read stories. I mean, they probably knew that he came from Oklahoma, and they probably knew that it didn't end very well. So they love their coach, and I think they're always playing for their coach. But yeah, I think that they want to certainly kind of stick it to Oklahoma and kind of in his honor this week. But I don't think it's anything that's kind of consuming or changing anything that they do. I just think that this team certainly doesn't lack for motivation, but they do love their coach, and so I think it kind of plays into it.
What about any feedback you're hearing from the fans? Do they more want to win this game to show, on a national stage that this Tennessee team can make the playoffs, or do they want to win it more because they want to show Oklahoma they ain't ready for the SEC?
From a Tennessee fan's perspective, all the above. Right? I mean, Tennessee fans, it's everybody sucks and we're awesome. Go back to the Big 12. It's we're here for real. Nico, Josh Heupel, he's happier here. This is his home now. I think all the above. I think fans obviously know the stakes of this game, and meaning if you win this game, you are sitting in the penthouse and just ready to walk into the college football playoff if you handle business the rest of the way, and you can afford to lose, a game or two. You win this game. If you lose this game, everything's still in front of you. Don't hear me wrong, but you got a little bit more work to do. So they know the stakes of the college football playoff. They obviously, I think, want to show Oklahoma like, look what you're missing, you idiots. Look what we got. Look how great we are. This is home for Josh Heupel now, and I think as well as the quarterback, there's another storyline with Nico, Jackson Arnold, two former 5-stars. Want to say like, hey, we got the better quarterback. We had the better 5-star. So there's just so many different layers to this football game, and I think that there's a lot of fuel on both sides, a lot of ammunition kind of heading into Saturday.
But you did say, and I agree, it's accurate that if Tennessee were to lose, they would still have everything in front of them. But I would say this, that if you can't beat this Oklahoma team, no, I mean they're top 15. I
agree.
Let's not say they're terrible, but if you can't beat this Oklahoma team, I don't think you're beating Alabama, and I don't think you're beating Georgia. So in my mind, I've said it all off season. If Tennessee can beat Oklahoma and beat Florida, which all of a sudden that Florida game looks even more winnable, but if they can beat Oklahoma and they beat Florida, they can go, or they will go. I almost guarantee it, to the college football playoff. Would you agree with that? That if they win this game, as long as there's not a 2016 Vanderbilt looming or something like that, I mean, this team appears to be a lock for the playoff.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. And I 100% agree with what you're saying. If you lose to this Oklahoma team, it doesn't feel like you're going to beat Alabama or Georgia. Now, yeah, I say everything's in front of you because you could. We've seen strange things, but I'm with you. Like, you lose this game, I don't like where Tennessee is at home against Alabama or on the road against Georgia. So that's why this is huge. You win this game, you can afford to lose those two games as long as it's not lopsided fashion. You finish the season 10-2 in the SEC with a win on the road against a top 15 Oklahoma team, and We'll see where NC State is, and we'll see what other, where the other teams are and resumes down the line. You're in the college football playoff. Yeah, I think that this has always kind of been that. I've called it the tempo setter all off season for the year. I recognize what NC State was. I was trying not to be disrespectful or overlooking NC State in week 2, but it was always this Oklahoma game for me. This is setting the tempo for the season. You want to be a good college football playoff team, you go on the road and win this football game and act like you've been there. I know you haven't, but act like you've been there. You still want to be kind of a pretender? Well, go on the road and have pre-snap penalties and jump off false starts on third down and turn the football over and lose that game and kind of be in the same realm you've been in the last couple of years outside of 2022.
If I were to tell you, Eric, that Tennessee does not rush for 100 yards on Saturday, do you believe they can win this game?
No, Tennessee's got to run. I mean, 100 yards is that's not the mile marker you want to be at. Like, you don't want to reach 100 yards and say, "Woo, we're good." No, yeah, for individually maybe, but not for the team. Team wise, I mean, gosh, man, if you get to 150, that's not bad. It's not great either. Like, you need it. Like, Tennessee's much better. Tennessee should always be operating around the 200-yard mark. And I understand easier said than done. I understand 200 is really good, but that's what Tennessee's average, on a game-by-game basis in the first 3.5 years that Josh Heupel's been here. So, yeah, if Tennessee as a team gets 100 yards or right around there, I have a hard time believing that Tennessee wins this game because everything's built off the run. I know that's what Oklahoma's strength is, but I like Tennessee's offensive line. I like Tennessee's tight ends in the run game. And, of course, I like Tennessee's Dylan Sampson. I think that is what kind of sets Tennessee's offense and Nico up to go to work.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you went there because I wanted to ask you about Nico. Do you feel confident that he is ready to go on the road and win Tennessee a game if need be? Because you have to imagine just for Brent Venables is going to force Nico to beat him.
Yeah, we'll see, man. I mean, that's such an unknown, right? We have no clue how Nico's going to operate and how Nico's going to perform with crowd noise, with the silent counts. I was talking to former Tennessee offensive lineman Ollie Mays, goodness. Ollie Lane, not Cooper Mays or Cade Mays, Ollie Lane. And that for a podcast that's going to come out on game day. And he said, hey, like, before these road games, the offensive line and the quarterbacks, like last year it'd be us and Joe, we go over there and right before kickoff, when it's really, really loud, we kind of go over our cadence. Can we hear each other? Like, no, do we need to go to the silent count? Do we need to go to the clap? They kind of figure all that stuff out. And, Nico's going to have to go through that process. And it's not going to work every time. It's going to be difficult to hear. They'll be flagged at some point in time. But, how do you navigate all that? We just don't know because he's never done it ever. And Tennessee overall has kind of struggled in that aspect on the road the last couple of years. And I hate to say, well, because they struggled last year in 2022 that they're going to struggle this year. But until we see something different, it's just kind of hard to think that they won't. So, but having said all of that, I mean, Nico's a confident guy. He's even keeled. The little bit of adversity he's faced so far this year, he's bounced right back. He's becoming more and more of a leader. He's showing confidence on the field himself to tuck it and run, much like Jackson Arnold did last week. So, yeah, I mean, there's nothing that I've seen from Nico so far that would say, oh, I don't think he's ready for the moment or I don't think he can handle it. But it is very much an unknown. I will say that.
Is there a matchup that sticks out in your mind that really favors Tennessee in this game?
Oh yeah. You know which one it is, right? I mean, it's that Tennessee defensive line and that Oklahoma battered and bruised brand new offensive line. 5 new starters from last year, 4 of which have already missed some time so far this season. Left guard's out for the season. We'll see if the right tackle plays. The center was deemed questionable in the injury report on Wednesday night. And because it's never truly gotten going, they have no run game at all. Jackson Arnold's the best run game they have. They have no run game right now. And there's not been any explosives down the field. There's not been a whole lot of, playmaking ability in the outside because they're having a difficult time protecting Jackson Arnold. Now you get Nick Anderson back. That's huge for Oklahoma. He's a playmaker. But that offensive line new already, having to go up against, 4 transfers came in, this offseason, going up against a veteran, old, Rodney Gardner experienced defensive line that can play 13 to 14 deep. Oh yeah, and James Pierce hadn't even really gotten going yet this year. This feels like a James Pierce game. I think Tennessee, now you got to go out and do it, but I think Tennessee's defensive line, the overwhelming favorites in this matchup against Oklahoma's offensive line. And if that's the case, I mean, as the game goes on, man, that unit can just take over. and can be really a reason why Tennessee wins this game, in my opinion.
Now, what about the reverse? Is there any matchup that really favors Oklahoma here?
I wouldn't say really favors. I mean, if you go through and look at all the matchups on paper, you play the game on the field, not on paper, but there's not a matchup that I like Oklahoma more than Tennessee in. But one that is close, or I'll say this, coming into the year was absolutely the passing attack for Oklahoma against the secondary for Tennessee. Now, Tennessee secondary still really hasn't been tested yet, and it will this week, okay? But I like Tennessee's corners, and because of the injury situation and the lack of explosives, Oklahoma's passing game just hasn't looked great. I'll take Tennessee on that one for now, but it's what does Oklahoma do well? They stop the run, the front seven. What does Tennessee do well? They run the football. I think those are two really good units, and something's got to give. I've seen it too much, and maybe it's because I covered Tennessee, maybe it's because I'm deep into the numbers, but I've just seen this offense run the football so efficiently, so effectively on the road as well, so many times over the last couple of years that I have a hard time believing this run game won't travel. The way they pull their guards, the way they pull their tackles, the way they use their tight ends in the run game, split zone, H-back on the line. I mean, you've got Dylan Sampson and Deshaun Bishop as well. I really like the way Tennessee runs the ball, and I would say that is the closest one that would favor Oklahoma because of Danny Stutzman and that front set. The pretty solid defensive line in their own making. That's Oklahoma. I would still favor Tennessee, but that one's close.
Mm-hmm. And we're recording this Thursday morning, just so people know. But what's your anticipation for Lance Hurd, the left tackle? Do you think he'll play in this game?
Yeah, we'll see, man. It felt like at the time last week that they were just holding him out of precaution, and Josh Heupel kind of echoed that. We don't want to ask about Lance Hurd, and Josh Heupel was like, "Well, we held some guys out because of precaution." He said that Saturday night. It sounds like it's an ankle deal. It sounds like maybe the ankle's not getting right as quickly as they'd want. It feels like he's going to at least go out there and pregame warmups and test it out. It feels like he's going to give it a go. But it's really just a day-by-day thing. I know fans are so anal about it and want to know, each and every single minute of every single day. But I mean, with injuries, sometimes you got to wait and see how it responds and all that. We'll see. It feels like he's going to give it a go right now. But Cam Seldon missed the last two games with injury, and he wasn't even on the injury report last night. So we truly don't know. It's a minute by minute thing. If Lance Hurd doesn't go, man, that kind of stinks for Tennessee. I'll admit it. But you should have all the confidence in the world in a 6-year guy, Dane Davis, who's played more tackle than any of your other tackles on the roster this year already. He's basically another starter you throw in at this point.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm holding this off till Friday. Can you give me your prediction for the game?
Yeah, I like Tennessee, and I recognize you look around college football, you look around this league, it's hard to win on the road. I think that place is going to be rocking, I do, and I understand Tennessee's had some struggles on the road, but I think that changes this Saturday. Again, matchup, you look on paper, there's not one matchup that I like Oklahoma more than Tennessee, and that's I think Oklahoma's got some pieces and certainly going to be the best team Tennessee's seen so far, and I think Oklahoma can, if they can find some offense and get healthy, I think Oklahoma can be, what we thought it could be beginning of the year. But right now, I just see two teams in two different directions a little bit. And I like Tennessee. I like Tennessee to cover, whether it's at 6.5 or 7.5. It's kind of flip-flopped the last 2 days. I like Tennessee to cover that. I do like the under at I think it's 57.5, which means I like Tennessee scoring somewhere around like 30, 35, and, Oklahoma, 17 to 20. So I'll get Tennessee 35 to 20. Not a blowout, but a pretty comfortable win, and that's kind of what I envision for Tennessee. We'll see how wrong I am, right?
All right, last thing for you. Really appreciate your time. But let's say it plays out that way, will we finally be shedding, kind of like the I like to call it battered Vols syndrome, where everybody in the country, not everybody, but most people like Tennessee. They see it just much like you do. It's a very favorable matchup. Yet there's always that lingering in the back, at least in my mind. I don't know about you, but it's like, oh man, how's Tennessee going to screw this up? But it's been different under Josh Heupel. I don't think that's the case, but that has been the case for about 20 years. Can they shed that, you think, if they go into Oklahoma and win by a large margin?
Nationally, I don't think a lot of the national people and writers and fans of college football have the battered ball syndrome. I think that more notably, it's like, man, look at Tennessee. I like Tennessee. They're playing well. They're doing all this. Tennessee fans, to answer your question, heck no, man. You know that. They will never, ever shed. One of my best friends texts me every single day, big Volquester, Locked On Vols, listen to you guys. I mean, he's just consuming all the Tennessee content he can. Text me Monday, we're losing Saturday. I'm like, dude, why? He's like, everybody's picking Tennessee. Everything's going great. We're going to lose. I'm like, can you not just yeah, it's going to be challenging and Tennessee could lose that game, but can you not just enjoy the ride? Like, you have a good football team. Things are fun right now. Like, think of where you were 5-6 years ago. No, just gonna lose. I've seen it too many times. I'm like, oh my gosh. So like the Battered Vols syndrome will never truly escape Tennessee fans. And Tennessee football was in purgatory for 15 years, so I understand why. Hopefully, though, it lessens a little bit, and you can point to this game maybe and say, well, remember that time Nico went on the road and, owned Oklahoma, and, that time Max Gilbert kicked that field goal right for the half to really put Tennessee in position to take the second half, whatever the case is. Hopefully, this game can kind of alleviate some of that BFS.
All right, before you go, Eric, can you tell my audience how can they follow you? How can they find your work?
Yep, on the X at _Cain or at Locked On Vols, Instagram as well at Locked On Vols. If you want to check us out there, I'm posting reels. Posted one of you the other day saying you had Tennessee #1 in your power rankings. That played pretty well. All that on social media, but of course you can go to the Locked On Vols YouTube channel, give us a subscription wherever you find your podcast, Apple, Spotify. Locked On Vols, we're every single day, sometimes on the weekends. This weekend I'll be traveling, so I won't have one, but 30 minutes or less to how you get your morning started.